Welcome.
Okay. All right. So we promised you in the show that we would continue our conversation by talking about the budget that is under consideration in D.C. If you're thinking it doesn't apply, that it doesn't matter, our words haven't sunk in yet about it, maybe it's time to listen to the words from the mouth of babes. Let's roll this clip.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. All right.
I'm sorry, I said good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening, Corey.
My name is Corey Skipper Miller. I am 9 years old and a fourth grader at Yonkers Montessori Academy. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Keisha Skipper's son. My mom is the president of the Yonkers NAACP, but that's not why I'm here today. She usually speaks at these types of events, but I wanted to represent the youth because what's happening now could change our futures. And what President Trump is doing and is threatening to do is frightening.
Wow.
Parents and teachers are talking about a lot of things that we don't know about, but unlike some people, we know the meaning of the Declaration of Independence.
Oh, woo!
Come on, we all saw the video talking about low IQ. All jokes aside, as you can see, my mom is oxygen dependent, as she has been for more than 5 years due to COVID pneumonia in both lungs since March of 2020. And without Social Security, my mom and I would not be able to survive. My grandmother, who is turning 98 years old on May 15th, would not be able to survive. My brother Kyle, who is a Marine, when he becomes a veteran, he is entitled to veteran benefits. And without those, he wouldn't be able to survive. Cuts to Social Security, cuts to Medicaid, cuts to veteran benefits, and cuts to education hurt my mom, my grandmother, my brother, and me, my whole family. So I'm asking you, and especially you, Miss Tish, because we in New York, what can you do to help me? I know you're all lawyers, right? I know you fight. Just keep fighting. Thank you all for your time.
Corey, I know your mom's the president of Yonkers NAACP, man, but your future, your presence is bright and your future is even brighter. But what I loved about that clip, and I welcome you all's reflections too, a lot of folks have the tendency to, pat you on the head and good job, now go back, a child in a child's place or some stuff like that. But in some ways, it takes that from the mouth of a child for us to look a little harder, see a little bit more deeply the ways in which a thing can affect and impact us. And that's really what I'm feeling about. I don't know if y'all have heard it much, but the mood around which people have been looking at this budget, the fact that there's in our community not a whole lot of talk about the extreme implications of what can happen here. And by the way, not just with the money, and that's huge enough, but also with the policies that they are pursuing through this budget. Things like giving the president unilateral ability to decide who is a charity and who isn't a charity, to go after Jamal Bryant if he wants and take that church's tax certificate, or any congregation around the country, any organization, declare it a terrorist threat. And by doing so, be able to supersede or really avoid due process and get rid of it by a single man's act. On the Medicaid question, we're talking about 17 million Americans today having health care. And after the signing of this bill, potentially, if the Senate doesn't rise up and do its job, those folks won't have access to health care anymore. These are people who largely gained health care under the advances that we saw under Obamacare, and now that access to care being extinguished. Some of us have heard about CHIP, which is, Hillary Clinton talked a lot about it because she was in part responsible for its existence, and that is ensuring poor children, making sure that children have access to health care. That was one of the largest lifts for children as it relates to their advancement away from the conditions of poverty that we had ever seen. seen up to this point in the country since Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the great expansion of the social safety net. I should also say, by them erasing the food assistance program, which took the largest amount of children out of hunger and poverty in this country, they're going to begin to reverse that cycle, putting kids, not just back and more deeper into poverty, but allowing them to experience what it means to only have a meal when you are in school hours. And after that, good luck until Monday. Survive Friday evening, Saturday, all day Sunday, until you can get another full meal on Monday. The cuts to food assistance programs, again, go beyond just our children. It affects parents who are on food assistance programs. I hope that we'll be able to, in some future date, talk about the impact of housing and the conditions that working mothers and fathers are finding themselves in, working a full-time job and still not being able to make provision for themselves and for their families. And so if you think that you're in the just barely surviving middle class, these are the kinds of material conditional changes that occur that cause you to slip more greatly into these insecure class positions that we sometimes find ourselves, that in truth, unless you're Elon Musk, it's a very tenuous place. It's a very tenuous existence. And because I evoked the name Elon Musk, I want y'all to hear what has been his latest words as it relates to this total package and this big, fat, beautiful bill of harm that President Trump and the Republicans seem to be moving forward.
Longtime Trump ally Elon Musk once again broke away from the president, posting some thoughts on his social media platform X, saying, quote, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it."
Now, I don't think the man is really worth salt. But I do know that there are Republicans who still fear him. There are Republicans who are going to be up for re-election to Congress and to the Senate who value his money and therefore don't want to be on the other side of him. In fact, since that initial tweet was made, he's gone on to say that we should hold those elected officials accountable who betray us by voting for this piece of legislation. So maybe his entry into this may be throwing down somewhat of a gauntlet for Republicans to think once or twice about whether or not this is a package that they want to advance. This will, as I said before, be the largest cut in SNAP benefits ever in the history of the program. The only people, y'all, aside from the tip, the no tax on tip, which, by the way, for those of you who think that's enough for you to vote or to be in support of this bill, that is only a temporary measure. It isn't even made permanent in this piece of legislation. So they want to give us a carrot, quote, but the truth is it's not even a whole carrot. They've shaved it off. It's a temporary measure to keep us silent, some of us, while they pass the biggest shift in American wealth yet again into the hands of the richest top 1% of Americans. So I just want to say where we are right now, and then my colleagues are going to weigh in with their thoughts. And that's to say, right now, the Senate is supposed to be making its changes. If the Senate makes changes, there will be a committee that comes together, both of the House and the Senate representatives, to try to combine those changes into a singular bill that then has to go back past the House and then has to pass the Senate. It passed the House the first time by one Republican vote. So when we talked about making calls to members of Congress, to raising our voices, jamming their switchboards and sending emails, these are the kinds of actions I believe that if you care about any of this, maybe you got healthcare through your employer, and so you're not worried. The reason you should be worried is the premiums will increase and you will be responsible for paying for those premiums for the people that they kick off the program. That's how it has always worked. That is how it will continue to work in this country. So whether you think you're impacted directly or not, we all have something to, I would say, by and large, lose, unless you're a listener and you're part of the 1%. we've got a lot to lose by this piece of legislation. Now, hopefully we can all wake up and start to pay just a little bit more attention to it. Tiff, I know you've got questions, and Angela, you know this process better than me. So
yeah, I will yield because we literally only have minutes, and I'm really sorry. I wish we had more time for this conversation because I have 1,000 questions for you, Andrew. Instead of asking a question, I'll just say thank you for pulling out, because that was going to be my question, to be honest with you. But then when you did it, I was going to ask you, well, can you pull out, like, what are the 5 things that are going to have the most impact? And you pulled out more than 5, and it has me nervous and disturbed. So I will yield my time to Angela, because I know we have a limited time. My only request of my 2 co-hosts is that we revisit this conversation about the budget, because this is hugely important. And I hate that they keep calling it the big, beautiful bill. I know what they called it, but it is big, bad bullshit. That is what this bill is.
Better.
Stop taking their words. Like, we got to stop using their idioms. It's like, no, we will no longer call y'all pro-life. Not when you taking lunch away from kids. We're not going to call this a big, beautiful bill. Big, bad bullshit. That's what it is. Angela.
There's another one of our sister friends who has some bees for these people. So I think it's a beach blonde, bad built, butch body bill is what it is.
Yeah.
That's what I think it might be. But I want to say, Tiff, I actually think it may be good here for you to ask some of your questions, even if we don't answer them. I think it's an opportunity to engage in a town hall style format with our audience. And I would just suggest to people, I know that when some of us, and I'm saying from the Hill too, there used to be sections when the budget proposal came to the Hill, we would take sections and divide it up, and each of us would have to respond based on those sections because of how much work it is. So I know looking at the page numbers, it's like, where do I even begin? What I would urge you to do is do a search, like in a PDF, on the things you care most about, whether it's healthcare or it's SNAP, which in the bill will be Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Benefits, I think.
Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program.
Why did I say? We still on the damn bees. It's y'all's fault. But yes, the program. I said SNAP instead of SNAP. I'm sorry, y'all. But I would encourage you to look at that. Veterans, search for healthcare in there. We're suspecting that a number of people's healthcare, I think more than 11 million people will lose healthcare benefits in this bill. So please just go and do a search in the bill, which is called the Big Beautiful Bill Act or whatever it is. It just look, because it does impact you. If it doesn't impact you, it impacts your parents. If it doesn't impact your parents, it impacts your kids. If it doesn't impact your kids, it impacts your neighbors. So please make sure you take a look at this. There are also articles written about it. And now I want to yield to Tiff's questions.
Well, I guess my first question, and we don't have to answer these now because I know we have time.
We don't have the time.
But my first question to Angela would be, you were the executive director of the Congressional Black Caucus for a number of years. I would ask, what, if anything, could and should the Black Caucus be doing as a legislative body to stop this? We can talk about that later. Andrew, my question to you is for the person who's going to be impacted by this, particularly SNAP benefits, particularly if your kids rely on this for food. Is there anything that people can do other than call their members of Congress? Is there anything that people can do? And then I will take this time along with the viewers, I hope, and I will go through the bill myself and look for things that will directly impact my life or things that will impact the masses, and come back and ask you guys more policy-centered questions about those.
I love that. And the only thing, I know we don't have a lot of time, is to simply say, I failed to say that Donald Trump wants to sign this bill into law on July 4th. So if you're thinking about how much time we have, how much time we get to rally, they expect to have a bill complete and on the desk of the president so he can do some great Independence Day gimmicky thing as he kills more Americans, as he sets us up for untimely deaths because of the kinds of cuts. And I'm not being dramatic, y'all. If you've ever had a family member with a medical crisis or disease that you all do not have out-of-pocket money to take care of, I'm not talking about going to the emergency room. I'm talking about treatment and healing and recovery. You better know that folks are going to perish as a result of cuts that give them the only possible extension of life. The thing to do, if you live in a Republican area particularly, Tiff, Angela, this has always baffled me, but it baffles me more here. You're Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia. Many of these places have Republican either entire legislative delegations that are Republican, their governors are Republicans, and certainly in those states, their U.S. senators, with very few exception, are Republicans. The greatest harm that will be felt through the cuts of these programs will be in many of these southern states, as well as obviously the Midland and other states, middle of the country and the other states. But for our folks who principally help to occupy many of the much of the population, this is coming for us. So it is not an overstatement to say email, call, go to them and let them hear your stories. It needs to be personalized. These aren't numbers on a page. I'm an individual. I'm a household. I'm a voter, and I'm being negatively impacted by this. That's what I think it will take. And I look forward to our continued conversation on this. I know there's more to cover here. You just had to get it in real quick.
Can we do one thing? You know, we all are doing, again, I think a pretty solid job of talking to people and hearing different perspectives. I really want to have some of those folks who would be directly impacted on the show to talk about what their experience has been. Because the truth is, even with what they have right now, Tiff, and you talk about this all the time, even about your mom, it's not enough right now. So the cuts are going to really, really hit a lot of people. And I think we should really get their voices on, because we talk about these things in such an abstract way sometimes. I don't think people realize it's literally their cousin or their aunt, or, it's a lot closer than people think.
That's right.
Well, this was a great mini pod. We're definitely going to pick this conversation up. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, we have our main podcast that drops every Thursday. Mini pod drops every Friday. You can catch Andrew every Monday, Angela every Tuesday.
Every other.
Well, every other Monday. And Angela on Tuesdays. You can catch us in LA this week, and you can follow NLP on all the things. Be sure to check out the other shows on Reason Choice Media. Thank you guys for tuning into this mini pod. Welcome home.
Thanks, y'all. Native Land Pod is a production of iHeart Radio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeart Radio, visit the iHeart Radio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.